Channel. So if you're new here, my name is Andrea and I'm a music photographer based in London, and I do videos mostly about that. Before I get into the video, disclaimer, I did cut a bit of my hair today because my fringe was getting a bit long, but I think maybe I have committed a mistake. But anyway, also, sorry that I've been away for like a month and a half. Are you really a YouTuber if you don't disappear for like 3 months or 2 months every once in a while? I just kind of wasn't too sure what to film. Recently, I kind of had a bit of a brainstorm on some little ideas that I think might be interesting for you guys. Let me know if there's anything specific that you want to see, and I'll also jot that down and try to come up with some ideas around that. For this video, as you can see from the title, I thought that I would talk about what I take with me to shoots. I think I'm mostly going to focus on live concert photography, not so much portraits when you actually go to a studio or you go to someone's house or someone comes to your house. The bags content doesn't change that much from one scenario to the other. Actually, now that I think about it, it changes a little bit. It changes a little bit, and I actually use a different bag for the different scenarios. So I think I might actually touch on what I take to portrait shoots as well. And then if the video starts to get a bit too long, I'm just gonna make a whole separate video for the bags that I take for portrait shoots. First things first, there's no right or wrong. Every photographer has their own style. I know that there's photographers that take like 2 cameras to shoot a live gig. Personally, I'm not a big fan of doing that, not because I don't think it's a smart thing to do. I just like to have the less amount of things to worry about when I'm shooting, because I want to be able to focus solely on taking the photos. I don't want to focus too much on the safety of my equipment. I mean, that's always at the back of my head, but I don't want to have to duplicate that worry by taking 2 very expensive cameras. So I try to just take 1 so that I can kind of relax a little bit more and worry a little bit less. Right now, the camera that I'm mostly using when I'm going out to shoot is my Canon 5D Mark III. I don't have the Mark IV. Personally, for my style of photography, I don't think I would benefit that much from the Mark IV, so I haven't upgraded yet. And I got this secondhand at B&H in New York when I went to New York in, I think, 2018. Before that, I used to shoot on this little Canon 650D, and it served me well for like 2 to 3 years, but it is a bit of like a starter camera, and it was quite limiting. One good thing about it is that it's so much lighter as well than my current camera. And it has a little flip screen, which is kind of cool when you want to get some shots from below and you can't really angle yourself to the viewfinder. Sometimes you can't like position your body to the angle that you need to position a camera to get a certain shot. So I actually enjoyed the live feature. Let me see if I can turn it on and I can show you. I haven't turned this baby on in a while. I think the battery is dead. Is it dead? Are you dead? Okay, I think it's dead. But basically it has a live capture feature that when you click it, it basically shows everything that you would see in the viewfinder. It closes that off and then it shows it here on the screen, and you can actually see things from a different angle. It's quite helpful, and I think it was helpful when I was starting off. Nowadays, when I can't look at the viewfinder, I would just aim and try to get the shot that I need. But this video is not a review for the 650D. I was just saying this is the camera that I usually had back in the day, and now I have my my Canon 5D Mark III. And the lens that I currently have been enjoying is the 24-105mm lens. And it's a prime lens, but it's definitely not one of the best prime lenses out there. I don't know if you know this. I don't even know if this is exactly true. Basically, when lenses have a range in zoom, I'm not a technical photographer, so I don't really know too much about the terms. I understand what my camera does, but sometimes when I'm trying to explain to people, I don't know the exact names for everything, but hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to say. This lens has a range, which means you can zoom in and out using it. And a lot of the best prime lenses don't have a zoom range. It's like a fixed lens. It only has one focal point. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. If you want to make the image bigger, you have to physically get closer to it to make it bigger. Initially, when I first upgraded to my Canon 5D Mark III, with all my research, reading about how fixed focal lenses are way better, I actually bought, together with this one, let me go grab it. I actually bought this very expensive, albeit I also bought it secondhand, but still it's very expensive prime lens. Oh, it actually does have a little range. It's a 16-35, but I think because the range is a little bit smaller, maybe the quality supposedly is better. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just having a casual chat with you guys as if you guys were my friends. This is not like a lecture. Reason why I changed from the 16-35mm lens to my 24-105 lens still remains the same. Basically, it has a very small focal range, so you can't really get a lot of variety in your zooming capabilities, in your framing capabilities, the way that you can frame a photo. In fact, what's interesting about this camera is, when you look at a viewfinder, it never looks exactly the same way as real life does. So when you're looking at a viewfinder, things usually look different in proximity than they do when you look at them in real life, right then and there. And people say that the focal range that gives you the most accurate, like real life proximity size when you look through it is the 35mm range. So when I put it to 35 and I look in the viewfinder, that looks pretty close to how things are in real life. Like the size of the things that I'm looking through the viewfinder look very similar to the real life size of things when I look at them right now. And what was actually interesting about my first prime lens is that, like I said, it's a 16-35mm. So it does this really cool thing that it seems to like zoom out instead of zooming in when you use it. So usually when you are using one of these lenses and you turn the little zoom turning wheel, you would expect the image to get larger. That's what it usually does. Like you zoom in like this, right? And then things get bigger. But with this one, you actually get to zoom out. It distorts the image a little bit. What it does is it makes things look further away than they actually are. And when I was first doing research about which lenses to get, to shoot at concerts and all of that, a lot of people mention this lens because it allows you to be very close to the stage and still get a wide shot. Because as you probably know, when you're shooting at a concert, you don't have a lot of room between you and your subject to properly frame things. So this was a nice way to like cheat. You're not cheating. A nice way to kind of get around that and fit most of the things that you want in your frame, even though you're standing super close to the people that you're shooting. The problem with that is that it distorts a lot, because the way that the lens is able to fit more information in the frame is by distorting it in, giving it a bit of a fisheye effect. And I personally don't like distorted images too much, especially when they're further away. This is like a topic for another video. This is getting a little bit too out of topic. I hope that's still interesting. But anyway, so I bought that lens, I got on with it for a little bit, and then I realized that I really missed being able to zoom in and framing things a little bit better when I was shooting live. So the lens that I use now is a 24-105. I think this is like the Mark I. It's like a way older lens than that one, but I prefer it way more because it just allows me to take photos the way that I like framing and taking photos. Even though technically the fixed range, fixed zoom lenses are better quality lenses, sometimes it's not an issue to compromise a little bit on that crispness if it means that you can get to take the photos the way that you like. They don't have to adapt around a lens too much. It's nice to sometimes just have a lens that works for you and the way that you naturally like to shoot. So that's what happened here. Going back to the topic of the video, I take my flash gun. It's also by Canon. I also bought it used. A lot of people don't recommend you to buy used flash guns because they do have a certain lifespan, like the bulb. Is it called the bulb? It basically can only flash so many times. What happens is that it starts to take longer for it to be able to flash. So the older your bulb gets, the bigger the intervals between flashes get. And to be honest, when you're shooting live concerts and you are using flash, it can be a bit of a problem. For now, it's okay, especially with the whole pandemic. I haven't been able to shoot as much. I've mostly been shooting portraits and stuff. So it's okay if things take a little bit longer to recharge and flash, as opposed to when I'm shooting live, when time is really of the essence, because moments sometimes don't repeat themselves. You can't ask the people on stage to be like, oh, that looked really good, can you do that again, as you probably could do at a portrait photography setting. So, you know, this one I bought used. It was good. I also got it from B&H in New York when I got my Canon 5D. And if you're interested, it is the Canon Speedlight 580EX. You know, it's not super new or anything, but you know, it served me well. And I always recommend people, when they're upgrading their equipment, to always go and try and find it secondhand, because you can save a lot of money with that. And there's a lot of trustworthy resellers that sell things in still pretty good shape. You know, they test things properly. And I think it's always smart, because chances are you might want to upgrade your equipment again in like 2 or 3 years. And if you keep buying things new, it can get a little bit pricier. I think someone is cutting the grass outside. Does it sound really loud on the mic? I don't know. Maybe I should wait. How long is this gonna take? Like I was saying, I have this little case for it. It came with a flash when I bought it. And it's very helpful to keep it safe. I don't actually have a very good case for my camera. I have my camera bag, and that's kind of it. But I mean, maybe I should look into getting a proper case for my camera. I don't know. So like I mentioned before in the video, I don't like taking 2 large cameras with me when I go shoot. I don't want to be super worried about where my bag is, if someone might step on it. If I have 2 cameras hanging from my shoulders, sometimes it gets a little bit hard. They, you know, click on each other, and it's just a bit stressful. But every now and then, depending on the shoot, depending on the type of photos I want to get, depending on how crazy I think the situation is going to be, if there's a photo pit or not, I will sometimes take like little alternative cameras with me. For example, take my Instax camera. This is a Fujifilm Instax 210. I actually been thinking about getting a Polaroid instead of this, because although I like it, it produces horizontal photos, and I kind of prefer the classic, more squared look of the Polaroid. So that's something that I'm looking into. But I do take this with me sometimes, and it's fun to get a little extra candid shot when you're shooting. It's a bit heavy, but it's quite resilient. I think it's plastic. You don't have to be super careful with it. Sometimes I'll take a little point and shoot as well. This is the Olympus MGU1. I don't really know how to say it. MGU-1. And if I'm not mistaken, this was actually my mom's. I remember I actually took this camera with me when I was back in lower school. So that's like what, grade 4, I think it was, or grade 3, maybe even grade 2. I don't know. I took it to school and I shot like a whole roll of film of my friends. And I really love those pictures. We all look so tiny, and it's very sweet. But yeah, it's a great little point and shoot. It has a little built-in flash as well, so you don't have extra bits coming out of it that can get broken. It's pretty compact, pretty sturdy, and it has this little strap that you can have it on your wrist, and it's easy to carry. And when I feel like taking a little point and shoot, this is the one that I usually take. I always try to put them in little bags as well. I have this little bag from Kidston that I got as like a freebie, I think during Christmas. I also have this little Havaianas bag. If you're from Brazil, you know what this is about. And it's quite cute and compact, and it helps protect your cameras when they're like in the big bag that you take. I don't usually take my camera charges when I go to shoot concerts, because it is usually a like 2 to 3 hour ordeal, and my battery usually lasts pretty well for that sort of time frame. When I do go shoot portraits, I always just take the charges with me, just why not, you know? Also, it's way easier to find a little power outlet if you're shooting at a studio or someone's house, as opposed to when you're shooting at a live concert in the photo pit. Obviously, you're not gonna be able to charge your stuff. So I don't usually bother taking my chargers, but what I do take are batteries for my flash, because like I said, my flash is an old man, and sometimes he needs a little bit more power to it, and it kind of gets tired a little bit quicker. So I always take a little battery pack so that I can allow myself not to worry too much about the flash. dying out. Also, speaking about my old man, like I mentioned before, because it's older, sometimes it takes longer to recharge between flashes. But if it has really high battery, it will help recharge a little bit faster. So you can kind of combat that delay in flashing by keeping the batteries in it really fresh. Obviously, to not be super wasteful, I do keep a little jar with my still pretty good batteries, and I reuse them around the house to make sure that they're fully dead before I dispose of them, you know, like maybe in little fairy lights or little nicks and knacks around the house. And then I take this little jar to the recycling center and I recycle them all together. I'm just now gonna quickly show you what my gig photography bag looks like. So this bag, I'm gonna show you properly in a bit, but this bag, I've had it for years and years and years. I bought it, I think, from Rocket here in London, and it's actually made from an old leather jacket, which is kind of cool. You know, repurposing things is always nice. It is quite knackered. This strap still looks pretty okay. This strap, all the leather kind of seems to have come out of it, and that's just from me, you know, taking it around for years on this shoulder, but it still works fine, and it's very roomy. It's by no means an actual camera bag. I just always kind of used it as such. It's quite big and spacey and roomy and black, which I like because it's discreet. It kind of blends in. Like I said, Rocket. And I always kind of worry a little bit about my main camera because, like I said, I don't have like a proper camera bag for it like I do for my little ones. My little ones, I just have like all of these, and I don't have one for the big boy. But I try to be as strategic as I can with the placement so that it doesn't really bump around too much. And if I was ever to take extra lens with me, which I probably wouldn't to a live concert for the same reasons that I mentioned before, like the whole safety and stuff like that, I also have this little Canon lens bag that I would take it in. So first I would add the big camera. I put it in the corner so that when I carry it on my shoulder, I can kind of know where it is and protect it. Flash, battery pack. And then I'll take this little secondary camera, usually in a little secondary bag. Another secondary camera if I'm feeling extra creative. Kind of like to line them up vertically, no, horizontally, so that they don't like get on top of each other, and it's easy to, when you're carrying it, to control where things are, since it's not like the most padded bag. And then I'll add all of the other little necessities: phone, wallet, keys. Usually I like to have them in another little bag. I have a bag that's a little bit bigger than this so that all the essentials are inside, so that when you take your stuff out, you don't pull things out of the bag and they don't fall onto the floor. Say you're gonna get your camera out in the middle of the gig and it has a strap, and sometimes it'll pull things out of your bag. If you have all of your little trinkets safe in a big bag, it's easier to make sure that nothing gets lost. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Okay. I think that I'm probably gonna leave what I was gonna say about the differences between what I take to live concert photography shoots and portrait photography shoots, because I think this video is already too long. I went in a lot of tangents, and I think I might make a whole separate video about what I take to the studio shoots, because now that I think about it, now that I really got into it, I think there are quite a number of differences in them. So I'm just gonna focus on this camera bag for this video. Let me know if you would be interested in seeing the video about my other bag. It's actually really cute. It's way cuter than this one because I don't leave it on the floor when I go to shoot like I do with this one. This one I just put it below the stage when I shoot, and it's quite scruffy. The other one is way prettier and cuter, and it was a gift, and the dimensions are different. It's like a proper camera bag where your camera like slits in. But anyway, that's gonna be for another video if you want to see it. Let me know what you thought of this video, what you would like to see next. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned, if you want to tell me what's inside your camera bag, I'll be very interested to know as well. Again, apologies for disappearing. Hopefully I'll be back more often. Thank you so much to my patrons that help me keep myself motivated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye.